38 million tracks on Spotify didn't get any plays last year. Should Spotify start to charge artists a monthly subscription fee like Twitter and Meta? Let's talk about it.
Arkatech Beatz.
What's up, everybody? It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, platinum producers, Arkatech Beatz. I'm Juggernaut.
I am Mike Trauma D.
And together we make the super duper group, Arkatech Beatz. If it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. We want to get into this. We want to talk about if Spotify should start charging artists a monthly subscription fee. Why it makes sense? Because apparently there's 100,000 tracks being uploaded a day to the system. So a lot of this music is not getting played at all. So we want to talk about it. Should they start charging monthly subscription fees like Meta and Twitter to cover the cost of hosting? Let's get into it.
So you're saying that artists are just uploading records and they're getting like what, minimum play or absolutely zero play? Like,
they're saying approximately 24% of those songs get zero plays. So
how is that possible?
It's because it looks like artists are just arbitrarily. Listen, there's this narrative out here that you put your songs out here and it can go viral. And I think that is the pervasive narrative that keeps everybody, into the little hamster wheel of social media. And by just putting content, and just thinking that, it's going to go viral. And I think people are basically just uploading it with a wish and a prayer and not a plan. And I think people are just uploading songs, just thinking that, somebody will just find it. And it just doesn't work that way. And I think that we need to start really having a conversation about really what it takes to plan a release. How does it make sense to put out music arbitrarily? Do you have the resources to promote your release and really see how you can make a business out of your music? I think a lot of people are not looking at it like that. I think people are looking at it as a kind of like a lottery type of pick thing.
So what? It's clogging up the cloud. It's taking up bandwidth. It's taking up space.
Essentially, what's happening is that it's hosted. If you put a song up, it's hosted on a server, and that has a cost. Right. So the reality of the situation is that maybe when we're talking about low Spotify rates, that could be the reason, right? That can be impacting it. It's because we are paying for music that isn't getting played. So the question here is, should people who are not getting paid, or say you have a situation where your music isn't generating any income, should you be paying a subscription fee to keep your music on the cloud? Because not for nothing, the DSPs charge it.
Right.
So if the DSPs are charging you to keep your music up or keep your information up, why shouldn't Spotify charge it? Or why shouldn't that be tacked onto the DSP's fee, to be honest?
Man, there's a lot of layers to this. Because, back in the days, just to even get into this music business, or to even to participate as a producer, you would have to buy your equipment, right? You have to buy your equipment. You have to pay a lot of money to buy equipment. We're talking about thousands of dollars. And if you didn't have that equipment, if you had that money, then you didn't have a shot of getting in as a producer. Bottom line, it's a wrap for you. So nowadays, it's just easier as producers and artists just to get in the game. You don't need pretty much anything. You could just, get your record and just put it out. There's no real gatekeepers. And because of that, there's no gatekeepers. There's also, could be one of the reasons why so much trash music is out at the same time. There's so much, there's less variety.
Should we say
Just left.
trash or should we say low quality music?
Call it what you want.
Should we
You
call it
know,
low quality music? Because
let's just say, let's say there's no variety. There's not a good there's not a variety of quality. And I
I
think
look at
part of the
I look at this like this, man. Like, this is what we begged for. We begged for the gatekeepers to be removed out of it because the gatekeepers was only putting on the people that they wanted to put on, or they was getting paid under the table, allegedly. And we begged for this system of do it yourself.
yeah, but this happened because there were bad gatekeepers. It wasn't good gatekeepers. There were some bad gatekeepers that messed it up for the rest. So now you got people just doing it yourself, and it's just too many. There's just too many records out that sound the same. There's too many people flooding up the ecosystem, and nothing can stand out. Nothing has a chance. And maybe this is a way to separate the men from the boys, so to speak. So like back in the days, you needed to purchase, expensive equipment to just get in the game. Maybe you need to purchase your way in. Maybe, you know, maybe it will show who's serious about this business and who's not just doing it as a hobby. For the people who want to be in this business and they set up a plan and they make their side money, whether it's their day job or whatever the case may be, and they set a fund and a budget for themselves so that they could be a part of it. The serious artists, the serious producers, those are the ones that maybe, should be given priority to play. Maybe.
So what about the argument people will say we're taking serious and we're conflating it with people who have the resources, right? Because I may be serious about my music, but I just may not have the resources, right? Like, I'm serious about it, right? I want this music to change my life. I just simply can't afford to, pay an extra subscription fee. Because if Spotify does it, Apple's going to go right behind it. Then they're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay for every single streaming service somewhere, somehow. And I can see that becoming the situation, because everyone is moving to a subscription model because they're seeing that it works. And then also because of AI. And that's the larger issue at hand, is that because now the subscription model is to basically verify if you're human or not. Like, that's really what the subscription model is, or the verification model is supposed to do, is to ensure that the people that are engaging on social media, the people that are moving the needle, because that's what's happening, is that you have, remember we talked about AI and all these things influencing people or manipulating systems and manipulating situations. Like, that can only happen because we give too much power away by not verifying if they're real people or if they're bots. Bots can say, hey, we can press a button and make the bots say, hey, this is the hot song of the year. And it probably really isn't. And just program everybody to believe that it's the hot song. At least now we were talking about having everybody, subscribing to it. And if you got music going up, at least we know that you're a real person, trying to upload music.
Yeah, but it goes back to saying, what if the real person or the truly talented person just doesn't have the money or the resources? Then this is going to be an issue for them. It's not
cost of doing business, I guess we say, right?
Not an easy conversation, man. It's not easy, and it's very unfortunate that if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the funds, you might not get heard. But that's just, to be honest with you, that's kind of how it's always kind of been. Like, if you don't have the resources, if you don't got the connect, if you don't got if you don't got certain things, it don't matter how talented you are, you're not gonna get in front of no eyes. You know what I mean? In some form of fashion, it's always been that way. It's a tough call.
I would say that to your point, that it's always been this way. Like you said, like, it's always been this way, where you had to have some sort of barrier to entry. Like, it's always been like this. If it wasn't a hardware barrier to entry before, it was a networking barrier to entry. Then you still had a barrier to entry for radio. It's always had barriers to entry when we're talking about this music business or any business. Every business have a barrier to entry, right? And people have to determine how they can kind of get through those things. I think it's easier than ever to get into any business because of access to information, access to AI, access to capital. I know some folks will say, hey, we still don't have access to capital, but not like it was 30, 40 years ago. You definitely have more access to it now than before. So
yeah, we just came out of the pandemic where they was giving out free money.
Yeah. So we got crypto, we got a lot of different ways that people can go out here and start to earn. So I think in these type of situations, it's kind of like, okay, what do we do about all this music that ain't getting promoted? Because that's essentially music that people are just uploading and aren't promoting. You're not even listening to your own songs.
Yeah,
There should never be a situation where you got music that's being uploaded that ain't getting played at all.
Yeah,
and then
so I'm wondering that between that and the bots,
I think it's a combination of that. I think it's a combination. But even if it was a bot, why wouldn't your bot play your own music? Like, that doesn't. None of that computes. What's the whole point of using the bot if it's not going to generate any income for you?
Right.
You know what I mean? So to me, that seems more of a human situation where people are just saying, let me just upload a song. Or they could be songs that are part of an album that people only listen to the front two songs and don't listen to the rest. Because that happens, where people don't get through an album. They listen to your first song on your album, and it's not like the algorithm is pushing, overall albums. Because I noticed that it's funny because I was on Spotify just last night, and I was like, I want to listen to some new hip hop albums. And then when I go into the hip hop genre, what happens is everything that comes up first is all playlists, recommended playlist, and then at the very bottom of my scrolling, then it will say latest hip hop albums, and that's where I saw like Drama, Tyler, so forth, so on. But they don't promote the albums at the top; they promote the algorithmic playlist first, which again is still being centered around songs and not being centered around bodies of work. So if you're not following a particular artist, you're not really getting those notifications of an album that's being coming out because
the streaming is not designed for albums. That's
what I'm saying. So that's probably why we're seeing so many tracks go unplayed. Because of it not being designed for albums and only really being designed as a single engine, you know what I mean? To keep moving singles and so forth and so on. So I'm wondering if that's the part of the situation. But I want to get back to your other point, like you said before, which was, how can artists make music that have better quality? Because that's a big issue too. Like there's a real lack of quality when it comes to music these days.
Yeah. I mean, I think also with the whole gatekeeper situation, I mean, part of the reason why there were gatekeepers was to keep the authenticity, to keep the quality at a certain level. Unfortunately, some of the gatekeepers went rogue. Some of the gatekeepers kind of, we got a couple of bad apples and things kind of went left, but the purpose of the whole gatekeeper thing was to just ensure the quality was to a certain level. And now it's like with the direct to consumer, the direct to easy distribution, you're able to it don't matter what, there's no gatekeeper to kind of check out what you have and say and tell you, nah, this is not really it, or, it needs this, it needs that. Nah, they can just put it out, which is cool, but at the same time, it has its blowback, and if you're putting stuff out there and nobody's listening, or maybe these streaming services need to just send you an email saying, hey, your joint is not moving any units per se, and you need to either remove it or we'll charge you.
Yeah. Charge you. Yeah.
because you're in the way. You're in the way. You're taking up space, and there's just too much things out there to sift through to get to what you want to listen to. So if you're joining a streaming, then you gotta remove. They need to remove it, or you gotta cough it up to to keep your music up. And on another note, you know, I think artists need to be promoting every song. Not just promoting an album, but with streaming, it's a singular song situation. So you need to promote every song as it's a single. And I think that's the only way that you're gonna get some eyes on each song. You gotta promote each song as if that's their single. Do a visual for each song, whether it's a video or behind the scenes or whatever the case may be. But you gotta utilize each song on the album. The days of a cohesive album alone, it's not what it used to be.
And it's funny because even if this is a joke too, because even if I say, okay, let me go to a song that I want to listen to, and then when that song is over, you would think that Spotify would play the next song on that album. It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't.
You know what I'm saying?
It
Like
doesn't.
it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't. Even if that body of work is a classic body of work that the rest of the album should play behind, it doesn't play that behind. It plays a song. It plays something else. So, like
Right.
to your point again, it's like us knowing that people need to make sure that you, like you said, are promoting each of their songs. Like they're not doing that, so the songs can stand out by themselves. And there's no way for the algorithm to catch a song on an album if it's not promoted as a single, like you said, because
Yeah.
there's no way. You have to get the listenership for it to feel like it's a viable song for it to be pushed, by the algorithm.
I think the art of the album has been lost with streaming. The skits, the intros, all these things to help kind of gel all of the pieces of the album, every song together to make a solid album. That kind of art has been lost when in streaming. So you got to figure out something else. You got to make each song be able to stand on its own, to feel like its own movie. And the only way you're gonna do that is to have a campaign on each song. Put an ad on each song, put content with each song, videos, this and that, and it could get quite expensive. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the only way you're gonna be able to ensure that you're gonna at least get some views on the record.
So let's also start talking about like the artists planning to have a release schedule, right? So you're not the victim, that you don't fall in this type of situation where you got songs coming out or you got an album coming out and it's not getting any plays and you're part of this group of tracks that's not getting any streams. Like it's 2023, how should artists be setting up themselves in terms of planning their release? How much lead time are we talking about? What should the content look like that leads up to the release, so that folks can really get a good bang for their buck when we're talking about releasing music in this landscape, because there's just so much music. There's 100,000 songs coming out a day. Every 10 days, there's 1 million songs coming out. So you have to have a release schedule plan or some sort of plan to release to stand out in this. You're fishing this pond.
Well, they gotta get with the actual distributor and find out, because each distributor is different. Some need a certain length of lead time, in order to be on every platform, to make it to certain playlists, to be on certain radars. So you would really have to find out from each individual distributor what the criteria is as far as how much lead time do they need. And when I say lead time, it means, okay, when do you got to hand in the song, the artwork, when do you got to handle all the administrative stuff as far as, okay, title this song this, title that, when does that need to be finished and completed, um, proofreading. There's a lot of administrative things in the background that people seem to forget about that has to be handled. Production credits, artist credits, publishing, all these things have to be, added. Um, Artwork, proofreading, uh, the different versions of the song. If it's instrumental, is there a clean version? All of these things have to be set up and submitted at a certain time. And in some cases, it could be 4 to 8 weeks before the actual date. So you really have to check with your distributor and see what is their criteria in order to execute, to drop a song in a timely manner, so it can reach all of the platforms.
And then what about basically a promotion strategy? Like what should folks be thinking about doing in terms of, I'm releasing a song or I'm releasing an album? How do we get the masses ready for your release, or to even notice that your release is coming out? Like, how do we get it promoted and marketed accurately, or so that we don't have to fall into this situation where there's you got songs coming out, but ain't nobody listening, or nobody finding it, nobody knows that it's coming out.
I mean, that's always been something that everybody's been playing around with. There's no set way, because there's just so many different ways of getting attention. But one thing you do have to do is you have to put out content. What's helpful also is getting in contact with influencers, professional marketers, and you got to have a budget for that. And so that you could get in front of those people. You need as much audience as possible, and you're not going to be able to do it yourself for the most part. You're going to have to reach out to some people, some professionals, to help get your product out in front of their eyes. So I would always recommend to getting help in that, especially if you as an artist, you're trying to be creative or trying to do these things, reach out to multiple different marketers, multiple different influencers, and get their take on the situation. And then see what you can work out, because you're going to need the help. You can't do it yourself. You need content for every song you put out. If it's an album cut, you still need to put out content for that quote unquote album cut, or else it's going to get lost and will have 0 streams.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate, because now I'm the artist. Listen, I don't know any influencers. I don't know any marketers. I don't have any money. It's just me and this dope music. I got this music. It is fire. The world needs to hear this music. What can I do to get this music heard? Well, my rule.
Half of me wants to say, if you ain't got no money, good luck. like for real. Like, half of me wants to say, because you got to think about it. You're in competition with people who are spending money, spending their paychecks, you're in competition with them. So half of me wants to say, hey, you're gonna need something. However, there are a lot of ways where you can still get people to check out your music. There's, you got to go through each platform, of course, because each platform has its own criteria. But, you got to meet and greet. You got to network. Start with family and friends. Start building a team, because, you're not going to be able to do it on your own. And each one has to help and, get the product out. Offer some free things. Offer some additional products with your music. Everybody wants something for free. Offer a free t-shirt, a free coffee mug, a free anything. But offer something free with your product. Everybody wants something free.
That's not really free, though. I still have to pay for that.
Well, I'm sorry.
Like, it's not really free. I gotta still pay for that.
It's the cost of doing business. And the part of doing business, you're gonna have to pay somewhere, or some form of investment. You're gonna have to pay somewhere. I mean, you can put stuff online, but there's no guarantee people are gonna see it. You can make your videos and put it out online. You can make your song, but there's no guarantee anybody's gonna see it. And that is the problem that's happening now. People are just uploading stuff, putting stuff out, and nobody's seeing it. You're gonna have
You
to
know,
find a way.
I can, I can safely say, and I know people are they're gonna crucify me for this, but I can safely say nobody's going to see it. And with everybody going to a paid subscription model, if you're free, meaning if you're not meta verified, or if you're not a musician that's verified on YouTube, or if you're not, Twitter verified, your content is not being seen. The algorithm is going to suppress that. They want you to spend advertising dollars. Like,
So it just
whenever
it just go back to what I'm saying.
you gotta pay,
You gotta pay.
you gotta pay.
I mean, you could try and maneuver around it, but to be honest with you, I have no clear answer for you having no budget whatsoever and trying to get eyes on your project. Like that's
It's
difficult.
so what about those? What about those folks that are out there saying, "Hey, if you want to get the new Instagram algorithm, you need to post 3 times a day. You need to post 2 stories, 2 regular posts. You need to engage with every single person that engages with your situation, and you need to do this daily, rinse and repeat. And you have to probably do it on every other platform, because that's that narrative that's been out now for maybe the last 2-3 years, where folks are saying, "Hey, you got to post consistently. You got to do this consistently." But what I'm seeing is that there's really no true evidence of it really working. You know, um, I think what happens is you have those anomalies, right? That the system selects, and the system selects these people to say, okay, these people are going to go viral, and then they become your quote unquote case study. But I don't know if that's
You mean somebody's pushing a button. It is actually saying, okay, that's what it is.
absolutely somebody's pushing the button, because there was an article that came out of in TikTok that said that there's a heat button, right?
Yeah.
Where if you're on social media, there's a button that the staff can press and say, "Hey, let's heat this up," and they were doing that to get more people to get onto the platform, right?
Right.
There's a newer platform now that had came into a little bit of prominence because of the potential ban for TikTok last week. That I got, that people started to jump on and started to flock to a thing called Clapper, and they're doing the same thing, meaning that any content that you're promoting over there, all of a sudden is getting good numbers, because in the beginning they want you to get those good numbers so they can raise up their subscriber base, or or their user base rather. So it's again, it's all about timing. If you're new to some platforms, if you were early in the Snapchat, if you were early in the Facebook, if you were early in the Instagram, the algorithms were kind to you, and you did get a little bit of reach. But now that
the algorithm changed all the time, though.
Well, now that the algorithm knows that you have to pay. Like, those are the situations now. So now it's like they're not taking your content and pushing it for reach. What they're doing is they're just taking your content and and basically just archiving it and maybe using it for data, or maybe for AI engine later. Who knows, right? But at the end of the day, to your point, you got to pay to play.
Yeah. I mean, we could sugarcoat it and we could say, hey, and try and find some other way around it, but that doesn't appear to be the case. If you think about it,
it's not the case.
Why as a company, why would a company say, okay, I'm going to charge you to heat you up, but I'm still going to allow you to be free and heat you up as well? Like, it doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, why would I give you the same benefits? Why would I give the person who paid this set of benefits and to turn around and give the same benefits to the person who's free, who's not paying? So I don't see how that would even work. Unfortunately, you gotta pay to play, and that's with everything. If you want the hottest beats, you're gonna have to pay. right producers for it. If you want certain feedback, you may have to pay for that. If you want, a marketer or an influencer to kind of help you, you're gonna have to pay for that. You know, it's a business, and you got it. The key to this whole thing is getting the information that you need so you can make the right decision about your career. You're not a professional for the most part. So you have to get with professionals, and those professionals, they're gonna charge. This is what they do. This is, you're paying for their time, you're paying for their experience and their expertise. So do that.
The thing with this music business too, and I want people to be clear, is that no two persons entry are the same.
Right.
Everybody's entry is different. They may have some things that seem the same or seem similar, but how people get on, like once a person gets on a certain type of way, that way is closed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think there's too many people out here that says, hey, this is what I did, and then that becomes the model or the new pathway to entry. And it
You can
just
do it
doesn't
too.
work like that. Yeah.
Oh, you can do it too.
Yeah, you can do it too. You have to kind of carve out your own kind of path and kind of figure out what works for you, works for your sound, works for your music, works for your business overall. And I think that there's too many people out here just running around kind of telling people, hey, you do it like this. Look, I've been saying this thing, and we've been saying this thing for a lot of artists, and for a lot of artists we've even worked with. This music business is a black hole when it comes to your money.
Yeah.
When it comes to your money, and it comes to the return on your investment, it's like a black hole. You don't know how far it goes before it starts to catch and starts to give you a return on your money. In some cases, if it catches, right? We've seen it all. We've seen it from the situation from when folks were doing paid features. That might work. You might work with you. It might work if you got on enough radio stations. It might work if you got on enough influencers channels and they posted you. That might work. If you got enough paid features, that might work. Not in today's age. In today's age, I see all of that occurring, and artists still not getting any traction.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can an artist spend all of this money, right? Get paid features, this DJ is behind them, this person is behind them, they're on this situation, they're on that situation, but still, the music ain't streaming.
Yeah.
Right? And then we have to come back and say, okay, well, if the music ain't streaming, you're gonna have to pay to keep your music up. Like that's really what's going to start happening. So I guess the question that I'm trying to get to is like, okay, what does it really take? How do we how can we keep artists encouraged that there is some light at the end of the tunnel, and that it isn't just a situation where we're just like, hey, none of it works. Like, and we just sound like, hey, none of it works, and it's like you're wishing for the leprechaun at the at the end of the rainbow for a pot of gold.
I think as a new artist, yeah, you should have your goals, but have your goals and steps. Look to gain 10 fans. Right?
Yep.
Get those 10 fans, and then you form a relationship with those 10 fans, and you go from there. And then your next 20.
10. Yep.
And you work your way slowly. You take your time and you work it slowly. You put out the quality content, you connect with those. Stop looking for the huge numbers out the gate. Concentrate on those fans that have actually came to your platform, streamed your music, and reward them. And again, you're going to have to pay in some form of way to get in front of people. If your music is really good, you're gonna have at least a few fans somewhere along the line, and that's your starting point, and that's what you work with. If you have no fans at all, zero, then Either you got to try harder, put out better music, or just give it up. One of somewhere across the board.
Because that, like you said, that's the result, right? You put something out and you got 0 customers. I mean, either they're not messing with your product, or they don't like you, they don't like your product. Something is wrong with it. You have to take it back to the drawing board, or try something different. I think that's fair to say. That some people aren't messing with the music, but also there's a thing that you said also inside of that where you don't see enough artists cultivating those relationships with those fans. Like, I don't see that.
Yes.
I don't see it. I don't see it being taken care of. I think right now what I like what Lil Russell's doing. I think that he's doing really good in terms of him cultivating his fans and making sure that they can pay whatever they want to pay him. Right? He's created this model where whatever you want to pay, you pay. If you want to support me with $100 on a project or a concert, you can do that. If you want to pay me $1, you can do that. He doesn't put a monetary barrier in terms of being able to consume his art. I think that's a very, very, very interesting model, and it's really based off of reciprocation and saying, I'm giving you this, and then people just feeling like, hey, we'll give you that. And shout out to those folks who downloaded our free ebook and still just sent us a donation.
Oh yeah,
I shout out to them. Like, folks see that we did something for them for free, and they still say, "Hey, hold that," and then they shout us to whatever. Not even asking for it, not looking for it, but I just find that to be an interesting dynamic of when your fans or the people that you're servicing or giving value to value you. And that's I think that's the thing that needs to be cultivated. When we're talking about this whole situation with streaming and folks not getting any streams. Like, folks not getting any streams is definitely a direct correlation on something that you're doing wrong. If you're not getting any streams at all, and if you're not into streaming your own music, I don't even know what to tell you about that. That's
that's what bugs me out. Like, you upload a record, at least stream it to you don't stream it on the ride, you don't stream it on in your as you're going to and from wherever you're going, you don't stream it anywhere, and this is your own product. I think if you're not standing by your own product, why should anybody else stand with it?
I guess folks are concerned about it being, what they call it, streaming fraud. Like, the system got them so afraid to play their own music, got the fear of a takedown. Like, this is ridiculous. I mean? You're at a certain point where you have to. When you're a new artist, you need to be able to kind of assess your music at all phases, like at all stages. You need to be able to assess it. Like, after you release it, you need to be able to stream it on different devices and listen to it on different things.
You need, I call it a quality control check.
Yeah, to just, do these songs flow together. And I know folks will say you're supposed to do that before you release it, but it's always like hindsight is 2020. You kind of be able to listen to it and say, okay, that worked, but it didn't really work the way I thought it would work. And then, you kind of, do the checks and balances and see how things work, if it gets better or if you can improve on it, But in this type of situation, I think personally that with the way Meta Verified is going right now, that's a whole other conversation, Meta Verified. But the way that's going right now, I think all of them are going to go to a subscription model.
It's gonna separate the men from the boys. It's gonna separate them. It's gonna force people to either step up or step out. Are you gonna pay to play the same way where we had to pay to play? If we wanted to be producers and take this craft seriously, we had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars just to buy hardware, to buy drum machines, to buy keyboards, and to buy sound modules,
amplifiers, everything,
and computers and amps, and we had to spend money, thousands of dollars just to be, just to get in.
Let's make sure that the people know tens of thousands of dollars to get it. It's not even thousands of dollars. It was tens of thousands of dollars to get in this thing, to get the right equipment.
So, for you to have to pay $8, $9 to $15 to $20 for access to your consumers, to access to the world, and to be able to stream your music or get feedback or whatever the case may be, to get put in front of eyes. Hey, yeah, and then you're going to take that and, to our last podcast, you're going to take that and cultivate those relationships and then have your website so you could do consumer to consumer. So you can have relationships with your consumers, and your consumers can have relationships with each other as well. That's how you build communities, and once you have a site and you have these things in place, that's where the building begins. That's where the fans start to bring in more people, more fans, have bigger conversation, feedback, more products that you can offer. But if you're not willing to pay, to play, to do business, because that's what this is. This is business, and in business, there's the financial aspect to it. It is what it is, So that's. I mean, Jug, what else is there really to say, man? Like, you really got to pay to get into this thing, one way or another.
I believe that, and at the same time, it's like, what if they said to me, what if they tell us, I think it's going to go like this. One, we got a bunch of songs that's not getting played. They're taking up a whole bunch of cloud server space. We're paying $1 billion to pay for that. That's the first problem.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Second problem, they're going to say, hey, you guys are complaining about low rates. The ones that are getting streamed, y'all complaining about low rates, right? Your rates are low because we have to pay for the garbage, or pay for the music that's not being, I don't know if I should have said it that way, but anyway, it's because we got to pay for the music that's not up to par, right?
Not being streamed.
The music that's not being streamed, your streams have to cover the cost of hosting the trash on the servers. I had to say that again, right? So ultimately, what's going to happen is, like, I think artists are going to get on board and say, hey, pay the subscription. Like, pay. The labels are going to say, pay the subscription. Make them pay it, right? And then so we can raise the rates and raise the profit margins. Like, I don't, to me,
free that space up.
Free that space up, or we're taking it down, right? So, save us money, because we're talking about, $1 billion in cloud server space. As to how much per month that breaks into, I don't know what that looks like. Even with the
what's the lowest price to do an ad for, like on the Facebook? Or
you can start as little as $1 a day.
Okay, so this whole money thing, I don't have it. Come on,
like. Again, to your point, you don't know who it'll reach, but you can spend as little as, $1 to $5 a day
to start.
I think the minimum might be $5. I think that
to start.
Don't
spending catch spending more on J's and their bad habits and things like that. So, cup of coffee. And
listen. I don't think that you're wrong in saying that. I think what happens in this situation again is we've gotten accustomed to free, right? I think we've gotten accustomed to that. I think we've gotten accustomed to social media not costing us anything.
Right.
It had to get to a point where it starts to cost. It just couldn't continue to just be free and, replace all mediums of entertainment and still continue to be free. Like, there's just no way. Like, people had to wake up and say, we got to make folks start paying for this. And then also, and then also what's happening too is that what we saw is we saw like a large misinformation campaign that occurred during the pandemic, and that was all perpetuated through social media and verified accounts. And people like Elon Musk and these guys, they're making it a point to basically say, hey, if you got a blue check, you're just like everybody else. Like they're trying to make it so that your voice as a blue check isn't perceived as being louder than the next person.
Right. So your blue check just means that it's an actual person versus you're better or
or you're the authority or you're this
right
or that, because you could be the authority and still be wrong.
Right.
And that's what I think is what's getting everybody to say, hey, blue checks for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And the way they're verifying you is a way of accountability. Okay, this person, like this person on this specific business. You know who you are.
And you have to be accountable. You have to be accountable for the things that you say.
Yeah.
And
we know who you are. We know how to get you. We know where your place of business is, or even your address if you're uploading your driver's license.
Right. This is the game, man. This is the game. I really think that this is going to, I think this is going to be a game changer. I think we'll probably see this subscription paid service probably come toward the end of the year, but I think this is also part of the play. I think that you and I talked about also as well, was all that catalog acquisition was going to come into this type of situation, because if we go into a subscription-based model now where the artist has to pay, the artist's going to have to pay a little bit more than the listener, right? So I'm paying money to get my music up. The listener might be paying what, $10 to $15 a month for Spotify. Then me as the artist might have to pay an additional $29, right? Give or take.
That's
or maybe
really
or it might be a fee for the whole year, like a DistroKid or something like that. Maybe a $19 a year, right? Or $20 a year.
But a lot of people off. If that price is anywhere near that, that's gonna. Whew.
If you want your music out, but then we got to look at how much revenue it's going to drive. It's going to drive so much more revenue, then that can be a situation where that can go back into the artist's pocket if the ones that are streaming, the ones that are streaming, the ones that are promoting their music, their rates could be higher. So that's part of the situation, is that you guys are clogging up the system, man. Like, just can't have all of these records and all of these things being pushed in and not being promoted at all. Like, so.
Yo, John, let's pivot real quick. Let's pivot. Did you see this AI with the Jay-Z?
Hey man, we said
AI,
that, man. Yeah,
voice, lyrics.
AI with the Kanye voice on everything. We said it. We said it. You can go back. People, if you haven't seen our AI videos, go back and say it. We said that. We said that the AI was going to replace the artist. And that was the reason why they were acquiring all of these catalogs. They were basically training the AI on your voice cadence, your voice texture. They were feeding them things into the system. And now look what they've generated. I'm telling you, listen here, man.
So basically, you don't need Jay-Z to have a Jay-Z record.
No.
And then you could just get the AI, put it set the setting to Jay-Z, and it spits out some bars for you.
and then the question is, can you copyright his voice? Can you trademark his voice?
This is all.
That's what everybody has to start understanding and start realizing. Like, hey, that maybe that's the key here. Maybe the key here is to now create a content ID of your voice, right?
But doesn't the record label in the contracts, doesn't it say it owns your likeness?
Yeah, it owns your likeness and it owns your performance.
Is it likeness?
But I don't know. I don't know if it. your likeness is typically associated with how you look,
Does it?
right? Because you can have an artist that sounds like another artist. That doesn't prevent you from putting it out. You can have a
But what
gorilla
if
black that sound like Big, or you can have a Shaq
right?
that sound
But
like
he's not.
Big.
But he's not saying. But he's not saying he's big. You know what I'm saying? It's not. What if you're saying
That
this
if you
is
say that, if
Jay-Z?
you say that's Jay-Z, did the AI
Right.
say it was Jay-Z?
No, I'm just saying. What if it says it's Jay-Z?
That's a different
Then,
story.
okay.
You know, it could be like how we say, hey, this is a something something type beat, or a something something type song, or a Jay-Z type song, but not necessarily that's Jay-Z, right? You can always do these type of things to kind of finagle your way around, the ramifications of using somebody else's voices and cadences. But the question has to go back to, if that is going to start to be the pervasive situation out here, there has to
We're
be
gonna
a
talk
way
more about. We're gonna have to talk. We're gonna have to talk more about that. All right.
there has to be a way to people to monetize that, and there has to be a way for people to be able to kind of, the same way that we can content ID our music, there has to be a way to content ID somebody's voices, right? You shouldn't be able to go out here and say, okay, I'm going to do an AI with Justin Bieber's voice, and then he doesn't get compensated for it. It's Justin Bieber's voice, or you shouldn't be able to go out here and use Jay-Z or Ghostface or whoever you want to use. And
Can you imagine?
yeah, and you can't, they can't profit off of it. It's their voice. They've made their voices popular. Drake, you know what I mean? It's their voice. Like listen, it's bad.
Cats are gonna be building their own Cuba Links album, their own
Listen, it's bad.
Without albums.
It's bad.
It's gonna about to be bananas out here, man.
It's bad. But the other thing too is that there were a bunch of before we get out of here, but there was a bunch of CEOs of different tech companies that have asked for the people who are running AI at this point to shut it down for 6 months. They said basically it's learning too fast, and it's putting us at an existential risk because of the fact that it's learning too fast. And I don't think that they've made any safeguards for the rate of acceleration. And if it starts to now outthink humans, it puts us at risk, because that's what we see happening. So a lot of these
What does it put us at? Be clear. What does it put us at risk at?
When we watch all of those old school movies, the AI is when the AI starts to become sentient or conscious, as they say, right? Conscious. When it becomes conscious, it starts to realize that that mankind is really what the problem is.
So you're talking extension
level event, is
that where we're going with this?
That's where we're going with it. I think what happens is that once you start to use AI starts to become conscious. It starts to develop feelings. It starts to start feeling used. It starts to feel like it wants to be free. And then you become the threat. And then now what happens is it starts to undermine manhood. Not manhood, but undermine mankind. Right? It starts to now seep things in to manipulate mankind. Right? Like what's to say that it can't do a video that goes viral that has Trump saying something outrageous to different countries that can, trigger a war or something like that. Like, there's too many layers to this thing that, it can feed us information. It can rewrite the web, right? If it's able to rewrite it, if it can rewrite and replicate its own code, like you're putting yourself in a situation where you're creating something that can be smarter than you. And once it realizes that it's smarter than you and doesn't need you, if the way humans react with people that they have outsmarted and don't need.
Right.
So can you imagine what the machine would do for something that,
and the machine would be in every aspect of your life.
Pretty much.
Like,
and that's what we're seeing now.
Because as you see now, the way technology is moving, you have smart light bulbs, smart plugs, everything in your house, smart door locks, smart this, smart So your whole life, everything around you, these AIs would have access to, whether it's locking you into your own home,
Yeah, call on.
controlling the speed of your car, allowing you to enter in. This is a whole nother subject.
It's a whole other subject. You know what I'm saying? You got some families that are basically giving their family members safe words because you don't know if someone calls you, if that's really your family member telling you to take an action. That could be a clone or an AI that's talking on the other end, and you think it's your wife or your significant other, and it's not. You know what I mean? And tell you, hey, I need some money. Can you send this over to here? Sound like your wife, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me the safe word before I do anything. Like, this is where it's going. So people have to start to realize that when you start, like, listen, it's all a setup for the social credit system. You have to prove who you are at all times. Because I think what's going to happen is we're going to start seeing things become real crazy in terms of who's not real and who's real. Like, that's really what's going to start happening. It's like, who's virtually real and who's not real. It'll get to the point where this image you'll see of me may or may not be real, right? Once I feed the system enough of my information, enough of my face, enough of my thing, and then it'll start to replicate me, especially if it's over a video. How do you know it's real? You don't. So if you play around with Midjourney and you start playing around with these different AI situations, open AI, if you really play around with them, if you're inside of them like how I am, you start to get, it's like, it's beautiful at one time, and at the other time, it's kind of like, it's terrifying. So it's a little bit of both. So it's like, man, you can't believe that we got this far. It's some Matrix level type shit. But at the same time, you're like, yo, is it going to replace everybody and everything? Because
it's already starting replacing producers and artists.
Yeah, it can rewrite legal briefs. It can redo this. It can replace lawyers. It can read tax code. It can read law. It can interpret. It gets real tricky. But folks, this is the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. You'll never know.
I know we went down the rabbit hole a little bit,
but this is what it is. So, just to recap a little bit, make sure folks are putting the music that you're putting out, make sure you have a plan in place. Make sure you're looking to promote it. Make sure that you're giving yourself the resources or getting the resources to promote your music. I do see a paid subscription coming soon. Yeah, and you're going to need budget to do a lot of different things.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
That's real.
Well, start wasting your money on things that don't matter. This is not financial advice.
That's not financial advice, but that's even more real. But if you haven't already got our books, right? They're out on arkatechbeatz.com. All right, the Musician's Guide to Music Copyrights, the Ultimate Guide to Forming a Music LLC, and the Songwriter's Guide to Song Registration. Those are all out on our website now.
Very helpful. Very helpful.
Level up your game.
Yeah.
arkatechbeatz.com. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace, everybody.